What's happening, comic fans? It is Mike from the Hardcover Comic here. Today I wanted to talk about a book a lot of people have asked me questions about. It is the Dark Knight's Death Metal bind that I had done. I've had a lot of questions about the reading order, what I've included in the book, so today we're going to go over that and talk about the bind in general, talk about how it was rereading it in this bind itself as opposed to the single issues, and I'll sort of talk about why I mapped things the way I did. It's nothing very exciting, but if anyone's curious out there, hopefully you can get some questions answered in this video, and please ask any other questions you may have down in the comment section below. This is the bind itself. We're going to take a look at everything. I'm going to let you all know right now there will be spoilers here, of course, going through the mapping. Sometimes if I show the cover of what issue I included, the page to the left of it may be the end of the issue previously. It's what it is. I'm warning you now. I try to cover it up as much as possible, but once in a while you may get something a little spoiled for you. But the great thing about death metal is it's more about the journey and the reading experience than just seeing a page and a piece of artwork, because that may be misleading in and of itself. Before we get into that, I do quickly want to talk about organicpricebooks.com and the promo code THC2 that gets you an extra $2 off every single one of your orders at checkout. Just enter that code THC2. Amazing service. We love organicpricebooks.com. It's the only place Matt and I get books from anymore, unless we're custom binding something, but we love it. We love organicpricebooks.com. Great customer service, great shipping, really quick shipping, great packaging. You can pre-order, back order, find out what's in stock on their Instagram, what's coming up, what's newly added to the website to pre-order. Amazing service. Check them out. But without further ado, let's talk about Death Metal. Easily one of the best DC Comics events I've read in a while. Reading order time, not something I do too often, but for the Death Metal bind we'll do it. I pretty much bound these, I'm pretty sure, in the order that they came out. There are some reading orders online I've seen where they move around some of the Justice League issues, but I don't know. I don't think the placement I had them in is bad at all. I don't know if moving them around would make it better at all, but either way, this is the reading order I put the book in, and I've read it in this reading order. Absolutely loved it. We'll get into the story once we start looking at the book itself. We will look at each issue, and I'll sort of talk about it a little bit, but also show that I guess that is the actual reading order in the book, and I'm not just putting people on. A lot of these titles, I'd say pretty much every issue I have in this book is something that I would say to include in the bind if you're going to make a bind for Death Metal. There's a ton of argument for making a Year of the Villain omnibus. There was one that DC released. Maybe some sort of prologue omnibus or adding some prologue material to this, but this is already like 24 issues, a lot of them very double oversized, triple oversized, so it's already a ton of pages. You have cardstock covers in my case, which I guess you could try putting all in the back. I've never done it myself, so I can't recommend it or not recommend it, but that's the reading order. Let me know down in the comments below if you had otherwise. Now let's take a closer look at the bind itself and the book itself, and I'll sort of talk about it and talk about my experience reading it in this custom bound format. I did read the series as it was coming out, weekly. There were issues pretty much. Amazing event. I'm a bit shaky with events sometimes. I love events. Sometimes I'm not a huge fan, but Metal and Death Metal were both fantastic. Cardstock covers, makes it was kind of a book that was required some effort, some work. It's a really thick book as well. I mean, some of these issues go up to 80 pages or so, but fantastic start to the story. Again, there is some argument for creating a prologue omnibus. I didn't feel a need to. I read this the same way I kind of read Metal, where I just got into it. Everything gets explained. You get sort of rundowns and recaps of things that happened already, things that are happening in the event as it stands now. So at the start, you got 2 issues back to back. Yeah, so here's a recap double spread where you get sort of a rundown of really every Crisis event and everything, I guess, that's playing a factor into Death Metal itself. Of course, if you want to go read that, by all means, a lot of them are fantastic stories. All of them are fantastic stories, but not something critical. I mean, you will definitely get a lot more out of certain characters in this book. certain prime characters, I'll say, that, you know, if you've read some of the previous events and know a bit more about the character, you'll get a bigger impact out of it. So there is some, you know, some variance there, but honestly, I don't know. I can recommend this reading order in particular for, you know, someone who's relatively familiar with the DC universe. It's definitely not a book for a new reader. I don't even know if any sort of you need to know a little bit, I think, about the DC universe. If anyone's a new reader who somehow started with death metal, please let me know. A lot of these one-shot issues are sort of medleys of multiple artists working on the issue, multiple writers. You get a bit of backstory on some of the new characters that have shown up within death metal, which is all fantastic. There are a lot of amazing creative teams on this book that all come up with really interesting stories. You know, a lot of them go places you don't expect. This is an incredible, I mean, Garth Ennis, Joelle Jones do a Baby Batman story. It's absolutely amazing. The Baby Batman is one of my favorite, very mini side stories within this event. It's a very, very small side story. I'm trying not to show too many spoilers, so I'm showing the covers real quick because the last page, the page on the left, is the last page of the previous issue. So you got some more one-shots here. I gotta say that these one-shots are very, very important to read. I think they add a ton of context to what is happening in the main event issues. I'm not really sure why DC releases just deluxes of the main event. It's good that they do. I mean, it's better than nothing at all, but all of these one-shots add so much value to the story, so much background on the characters, on the DC universe, and honestly, the amazing artists you have working on some of these one-shots, the incredible writers that partook. I mean, you know, Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, Joshua Williamson, Peter Tomasi, I think, is involved. Maybe I may be wrong though, but there are so many writers, and I mean, you know, Scott Snyder at the pinnacle of this created something really incredible with Greg Capullo and everyone else involved. Of course, everyone gets credit, but yeah, they created something really amazing here. I didn't expect an event this kind of polarizing to be so enjoyable. I wasn't the biggest fan of Scott Snyder's Justice League run, which may just be my fault. I may just need to reread it now. Maybe I was, you know, just not vibing with it at the time. But, you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. There were some weird things done to characters within that run, and I was just kind of getting annoyed with things having to change all the time. But, you know, knowing this is the kind of event it is, it's nice to see it at its absolute craziness with this epic battle of, you know, chaos versus order, truth versus chaos. Absolutely incredible. So many fantastic character moments in this, seeing, you know, characters reevaluate their objectives and their perspectives and you know, what they value in their life and what they value in life in general. So you can see here at a certain point I'm able to lay it flat. But the cardstock covers still keep popping up, so you know, it's what it is. The only issues in this bind that don't have cardstock covers are the Justice League issues. Those are just regular issues. Really great story though, Doom Metal. I really liked it. You get to see an awesome Nightwing with a mullet, or I think it's a ponytail. I forget. Either way, it's fantastic. Ponytail. It's fantastic. A little more baby Batman action for you. It's such a great story. I really liked it. I really liked it a lot, and I'm glad I bound it like this. I'm hoping, you know, there was an announcement years ago, I think, at this point, that there was going to be a metal omnibus. Never saw it. Maybe it'll happen eventually. I hope it happens eventually. I hope more people get to enjoy the full event the same way, you know, the Infinite Crisis omnibus was a huge hit. The Final Crisis omnibus, I think, is a great way to read the best way to read the event. You know, Blackest Night omnibus, these things are, you know, these events are great, but then getting an omnibus with all the tie-ins, the full story, I mean, that adds just a whole bunch of layers to the mix, and you know, it's really the best way. I don't know. It's made me rethink how I do some of my binds. I guess maybe throwing in random appearances, maybe trying to make a more coherent story for a character. We'll see what happens. It's all obviously in very experimental thoughts right now, but we're at Rise of the New God now. Things are really starting to get crazy at this point in the event. I think I read this whole event 2 days maybe. I think that's what it took me to read this entire book. I mean, obviously I was spending a decent amount of time reading, but I just could not put it down. It gets so epic and so absolutely absurd, while also staying close to the ground. It's very interesting how that's done. I really like the various characters that you get to see here. The Justice League was a nice little Titans slash Justice League. This entire issue, what was it, Infinite Metal Extreme, entirely dedicated to Lobo, the main man, and what he's up to, and the various problems that he encounters as he starts working with a certain character in the DC universe to try and make things right. Absolutely incredible, fantastic issue with, I think there's 3 stories, 3 creative teams that work on it. A really fun time. And you know what? It, again, does add value to the story. You get to see, because Lobo does pop up once in a while, and you get to find out exactly what the main man is up to. Loved it. Fantastic stuff. I guess maybe there are issues I'm missing. If anyone does know, please let me know. This is the last issue of Justice League here. Wrapping up that Doom Metal 5-issue storyline, and then you get into the tail end here where, things get pretty wild. If you haven't obviously read, this far into the book, I recommend you stop watching now, unless you don't really care about getting some spoilers. But I try my best to hide them. The multiverse who laughs. I mean, you can tell things are getting absolutely insane. And, as far as events go, I must say this one had a relatively satisfactory ending. I will say, it's tough to end an epic event like this where things have escalated to such an insane level. You're not even sure how you can top it in the future. And, having to wrap that up, set a new sort of status quo, shake things up a little bit, set off new characters on their way to go. I think the way Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo handled it here was really well done. And I'm really looking forward to checking out a whole bunch of titles. I'm definitely going to check out Wonder Woman, the run that started after Death Metal. I think, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but I guess if you've been reading that run or if you've read any, it's kind of a mini spoiler of, what happens to Diana at the end of this. But either way, it's too late now. This has already been, I guess, out for a little bit. Again, not trying to spoil everything. I don't know. I feel like I'm digging myself into a deeper hole here. But either way, I've said to stop watching. But yeah, anyway, I'm really excited to check out a whole bunch of series coming out from DC. And again, this has really made me rethink how I do binds. How I do character binds in particular, or team binds. Things like Justice League Dark will get interesting as well in the near future with all these backup stories. And, just following characters in a different way and having maybe more than just, the character ongoing series, maybe having other appearances, things like that, to give it a more holistic story. But let me know what you thought down in the comments below. What would your death metal reading order be? What would you switch up? Would you bind this yourself? Or are you waiting for the official release? Let us know down in the comments below. Thank you all very much for tuning in. This is Mike from the Hardcover Comic. Until next time, as always, you stay classy, internet.